Hey guys, and welcome back to Gap Grace Point Online. Today is our last episode of our Vision series as we look at impact and we see how the values that we've learnt about over the last 4 weeks come together in something that is called impact. And we see how we as Christians are able to impact the world around us. Let's quickly recap over what we've learned over the last 4 weeks. Remember that we said that vision is the ability to think about and plan for the future with imagination and wisdom. We said that God is probably the most imaginative being that has ever existed. God took one look at nothing and created everything out of this nothingness. And that's when the world and you and I were created. And then we said that wisdom is what was with God when God created the world. That wisdom was with God and God had wisdom in creating the world and creating things to be the way that they are. Then we spoke about the baobab tree, which was one of the images that we used over this series to tell us about the past where our roots have been planted as Grace Point in God and our faith as people of God in Africa, and how we then as the branches called to go out and spread this amazing news and align ourselves with the stem, which is God and the way that God has called us to live as Christians. We also looked at the galaxy images, which told us of something that was far bigger and greater than ourselves, yet nothing that is bigger than God, because God is the biggest and sovereign, meaning ruler over everything. And so we can have comfort that when we align ourselves with God's vision, God is still bigger than this seemingly impossible thing. And so today we look at impact. Now, impact is something that happens because of something, or a reaction to something that was happening. If we look at today's image, we can see how what is here before us is the result of something that happened. This just didn't appear. Something had to happen in order for this to happen. It could be an explosion that's happening here in this picture. We don't know. But if it is, something had to happen in order for this explosion to take place. And then because of this explosion that's happening, something else happens as a result. This doesn't just happen and stop there, but the whole galaxy around it will be affected by what is happening here. And so impact is the same thing for us. Our Bible says as Christians, we are called to have an impact in being the salt and the light of the world. Let's read the whole scripture together. We read from Matthew 5, verse 13 to 16 in the English Standard Version Bible. You are the salt of the earth, but if salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but they put it on a stand, and it gives light to the whole house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so they may see your good deeds and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. This passage is speaking about impact, that when we align ourselves with these values that we've talked about over the last couple of weeks, we are able to have an impact for God. It's like having this light, which we light, and then we put this light of this lamp on a lampstand so that people will see the good deeds that we have done, not for our own glory, but so that God may be glorified. So the first thing we spoke about was connection, and that we are created to be connected to God and connected to other people. That we can spread God's love to others by connecting with them because we're not called to do things alone. The second thing that we spoke about is care and compassion, that our God is compassionate and cares for us. And because of that, we need to show care and compassion to the people around us. And that by doing that, we must teach other people to have care and compassion for those around them as well. In this way, we can show God's love through care and compassion to other people and have an impact. The third thing we spoke about was creativity and how God is the creator of everything. Because we're created in the image of God, we are also called to be creative. And as a result, we need to use our creativity for God's glory and so that people will see the gifts and the talents and the abilities that God has given to us that we now use for God's glory, and they will praise and worship God and see God through our actions. The last thing we spoke about was commitment. And that although sometimes it's easier to take the path that is not necessarily right, but easier, we need to take sometimes the difficult path of God's righteousness and doing what God said is right. We looked at the example of Esther and how Esther, as a Jew in a country that was not Jewish, could have chosen to ignore the people that wanted to persecute the Jews. And she, as someone who was not known as a Jew, could have lived up in the palace as Queen Esther and been safe, but instead she had to choose the difficult path, which was to be truthful about who she was, to stand up for her people, and to choose God's right way, because God's way was the best way. We saw her commitment to her people, and so we need to be committed to God's way in everything that we do. And so today, as we wrap up this vision series with impact, we need to be reminded that when we combine connection, care and compassion, creativity, and commitment, we can have an impact for God's kingdom. We can be the salt that adds flavor to the food. Salt by itself isn't really that valuable or that useful, but put it together with food and it has a huge impact. As well as light. Light in combination with darkness has a big difference. And so we are called to be the light so that people may see God in everything that we do and glorify God. We are called to have an impact for God's kingdom through care and compassion, connection, creativity, and commitment. And that's what vision is all about. Our memory verse for today is from Matthew 5, verse 14 to 16. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light in all the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so they may see your good deeds and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. That's it from us here at Gap Gracebond Online. But remember to check in the comments below for the resource for today's activity. Bye guys, see you next week.